Good
We are
morning.
live, Alfred.
Good morning, Dallas and Fort Worth, Metroplex, and all around the world. This is Empower DFW's fourth annual Entrepreneur Summit. We are glad that you guys are here. We are excited for this conference and for this summit on doing it virtually this time. And we have our awesome presenters and teachers with us today. My name is Alfred Record, founder of Empower DFW. And we also have with us our coach Kyle, who's going to be moderating for us. He's an entrepreneur. He's an awesome speaker, and has definitely been a blessing to us during this entire time we've been together. We also have Miss Frances Dean, who is on with us as well. Good morning, Miss Frances.
Good morning.
Just oh my God, I'm just so excited to hear. We should have you first. With everything that you're going to share with us today and all of the great gems and nuggets that you're going to give all of our entrepreneurs today, with everything that you're teaching us. She is the executive director of the Zan Homes Community Center in Dallas, and so but has done just great works with other nonprofits and businesses all around the country. And then, of course, we also have Miss Aaliyah Atkins. Good morning, Aaliyah. Good to see you. She is a business attorney here locally in Dallas, and she is just awesome at what she does. Lived in Houston for a while, and we actually are old high school classmates. So Aaliyah and I, we go way back, back at the olden times at Townview together. So, but anyway, these are our speakers for this morning. We are excited to share a lot of wisdom with new business owners and even seasoned business owners on taking your business to the next level. So as people are starting to join online this morning and get logged in to our summit, let me tell you a little bit about what Empower DFW is and kind of how it got started. So as I said, this is our fourth annual summit. Normally we would be in person, to share with you right there at a particular place. We've had it in Fort Worth before. We've had it in Dallas in a couple of locations. And we love that, actual interaction with our attendees. So actually we can get to shake hands, we get to network, we have a DJ, we get to feed you. So it's always great when it's actually live and in person. But unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we made a decision a couple months ago to go ahead and do our summit virtually this year. Because we wanted to make sure that everyone stayed safe. That was our biggest concern, obviously, is everyone's safety. So, but even though we're a little bummed out that we couldn't see you in person, we actually have now the opportunity to take this summit online. So that way, people who normally would not be able to come and get this information are able to just log in at the convenience of your home or wherever you're at, and still get this information, and it's free. The ones before, there was a small cost to attend, but we decided to go ahead and just share this information with you for free, so you can get the information that you need as a business owner. About 5 years ago is when I started Empower DFW. God placed it on my heart to share with other entrepreneurs how to go from being a part-time entrepreneur or a side hustle or something like that to something where it can be full-time and that's all you do. There was a story of basically my life, my most recent life as an adult. I was a seventh grade math teacher, and I started a business on the side in taxes, and then ended up being able to leave teaching and do taxes full-time after a few years. And so it's a passion of mine now, and now I'm passionate about helping others to be able to do the same thing, to take your dream and what you really want to do with your life, take a hold of that and be able to do it in a full-time way, if that's God's plan for you, or even if it's a few side hustles that come together to make up your full-time entrepreneurship, that happens as well. So we're just excited to be able to share with you some key tools and ways for you to be able to make sure that your business is in order, to get it started the right way so that it sustains itself and that it is solid, because you have to always build on a solid foundation. And that's what we're doing now. We're laying the groundwork. We're laying the foundation for you. And if you would just take a hold of what we're giving you between this next couple of hours today, then your business will definitely grow and be better off because of the information that we're going to share with you on today. what you're going to hear is, so basically the way that it's going to flow today is we're going to have our first session to start in about a couple minutes with Kyle Draper. He's going to talk about social media. He's going to talk about mastering social media and leveraging social media, okay, from Instagram, Facebook, and other platforms. So he has an awesome presentation for you. After that, you're going to have a session with Aaliyah, who is our business attorney. So she's going to talk about business law, okay, business formation, and restarting your business after COVID-19, because the state is opening back up here in Texas. It's pretty much already open, and other states are opening up around the country as well. So these are going to be some key things that you need to consider from a liability standpoint after you begin to open your business back up, okay? Because we are definitely in different times because of the pandemic. We'll do a couple of quick announcements after that. Give you a time to kind of breathe, move around, shake it off a little bit, because we know it's a long time. 2 hours is a long time to look at a screen. Then after that quick break, then I'm going to come back on and I'm going to talk about business taxes, tax implications for business owners, sole proprietors, being audit resistant. And also I'm going to talk about PPP and EIDL. And if you don't know what that stands for, stay tuned and you will find out. But then after me, then we will get to our special guest speaker. We will have Miss Francis, who is going to be speaking on the power of leverage. And you definitely want to stay tuned towards the end to hear what she has to say, because she last year was one of our best speakers and just the most celebrated last year from the information that she shared. And we know that she's going to do that once again today. So, and then after that, we'll have a full panel Q&A. Put your questions inside of the comments, because we want to answer your questions. After each session, you will have an opportunity to get your questions answered. So go ahead and put those questions inside of the comment section there. And then we will try our best to get as many questions answered as we can. And then we'll wrap it up right around 12:15, so you can get the rest of your Saturday going. If you're here in Dallas, it's a beautiful day in the city, and we don't want to take up your entire day. We want you to be able to go and spend time with your family, but we just want to take a couple hours to empower you, inspire you, and motivate you to greatness in your business, and bring some positivity right now, and that we so desperately need in this city and in this country, given the times that we're in. So I'm excited. I hope that you guys are excited. I hope you're ready. So go grab your pencil, grab your pen, get some paper, and get ready to take some awesome notes, because we're going to have some awesome speakers that are about to present to you and give you some great information. So I hope you guys are ready. Dallas, are you guys ready? It's time. Here we go. So we're going to get we're starting. All right. First, we're starting out with our friend, my brother, Coach Kyle. Okay, he's a former pastor, turned roofer, and a social media expert. He actually literally travels the country speaking and coaching entrepreneurs to develop their voice, to identify their ideal clients, and master video marketing. This is what he does, guys. He actually travels around the country to teach people. They pay him to come out and speak to their groups. And, you know, this is awesome.
How crazy is that?
Yeah, you know, so of course, due to COVID, he's having to shift it and do more virtually now. But this is so awesome because he's still being able to do it. He's passionate about people, serving people. He's passionate about Jesus, which I love, and making the complex world of social media easy to leverage in your business. So without further ado, Coach Kyle, take it away.
Alfred, thank you, bro. Man, I'm so excited to be here. Guys, this is going to be awesome. You are in for a treat, and it is such an honor, as it has been every year for the last couple of years, to get to be a part of this. And what I love about this is being an entrepreneur is hard. You know, Miss Francis and I spoke yesterday during a Facebook Live where we talked about, you know, entrepreneurhood isn't celebrated in a lot of families, right? There's a lot of blue collar families out there that for generations, they've just worked and they've put in the time, they've made their living, and they've just lived their lives. And so when you really think about that, as entrepreneurs, we get excited when somebody goes, hey, I'm thinking about starting my own business. That doesn't mean your spouse is going to meet you with the same energy. That doesn't mean that your mom and dad aren't going to go, wait, what? You're going to leave the comfort of an hourly job and you're going to go hope you make it? Yes. And so, guys, we're so glad that you're here. And I cannot wait to help you guys. And I know here's what we're all going to probably apologize for. In this short of amount of a time, we can't talk about as much as we want to. I can't truly help you master social media in 20 to 25 minutes, but I'm going to do my best to give you the greatest actionable items. And then let me say this, guys, I get paid. This is wild. I'm going to turn my hat around. I'm like Sylvester Stallone in that movie, Over the Top. Like he turns his hat around when it's time to get for real. But guys, we live in a world where I make money teaching people how to use social media. And so the reason I tell you that is, if that's possible, whatever dream you have in your heart is possible. You have the ability to get paid to do whatever it is that you want to do. And I just pray that this empowers you. And so I'm going to share my screen with you. And guys, what I want to talk about is leveraging social media. I know Ms. Francis is going to talk about leveraging everything here in a little bit, and she'll trump all of the things that I think I did well during my presentation. She's going to do it better. But I want to talk about leveraging social media because there's so much power in the ability to put yourself out there online. There's so much power in the ability to do a video, in the ability to share your story and leverage those things to get to know people, to give people reason to be bought into who you are. And so as I was thinking through what did I really want this to be about, I came back to three things that I believe this would be the big three of social media. I want you to understand how to know your ideal client, number one. I watched so many people, myself included, early on in my business, feel like you have the ability to serve everyone, so you should keep the ability to serve everyone. And guys, what I've learned is when we try to chase two rabbits, we end up catching rabbits, right? And you will be putting in all this energy, all this effort, the sweat equity is there, but you're not seeing fruit come from your efforts because we've spread ourselves too thin. And so what I want to do right here from this slide is I want to give you some very simple questions to be thinking through in regards to who your ideal client is. For example, how old are they? If you could snap your finger and you could meet your end of year goal for the dollar amount that you want to make in your business, and every single one of your clients look the same, what would that ideal person look like? Right? How old are they? Are they young? Are they a millennial? Are they older? Or are they boomers? Are they right there in the middle, right? The Gen Y, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. If you will take this energy and really come up with who that person is, guys, here's the beauty of this. Because let's say that you decide, you know what? I really think my product is best suited for 30 to 40-year-old women. Here's the beauty of this. Now you can progress through more questions and ask, well, where do they live? Where do 30 and 40-year-old women that you want to serve live? Do they live all over the country? Do they live in the heart of Dallas? Do they live in Fort Worth? Do they live right in your part of the city? But where do they live? Where are they doing life? What do they do for fun? What does your ideal client do for fun? What do they engage in on a regular basis? Another question is, what are they passionate about? Because guys, here's what I've learned. We have overcomplicated what I believe sales is supposed to be. As entrepreneurs, we all have to have the ability to sell. We have to be able to bring in clients, right? And so you have to realize that all of these sales books out there have overcomplicated what sales is. It's not a 10-point system. It's not a 36 touch system. It is simply this, guys. How quickly can you get the person across from you to trust you? That's it. What I've learned in my business is the moment you trust me, it's only a matter of time before you give me your money or you refer someone to me that will give me their money. This is how simple sales is. And so, guys, this is why social media is so valuable, because when you can identify what your ideal client is passionate about, now you can begin creating content speaking to that passion. If they're Dallas Cowboy fans, talk about the Cowboys, engage them in that conversation. You'll look up and 3 months from now, they'll be inviting you to go to the game with them. And now you're creating relationship, right? This is how this works. Guys, I am passionate about Jesus. I do a lot of videos just that are spiritual videos. And I end up getting coaching clients. I end up getting speaking gigs because somebody saw a video of me talking about Jesus, not talking about my product, not trying to sell anything, but helping people identify with my heart. That should be your goal. And then the last question is a deep question. What do they struggle with? What do they struggle with? What are their biggest frustrations? What are their biggest pains? What is that one thing that if they can't sleep last night, it's because of that? What is that? How do we speak to that? How do we nurture that? How do we love on that so that we can begin to open up the heart of the people that we want to serve? Guys, I wish I could go 90 minutes just on client, but I hope that you'll understand these. And I'm happy to send you guys my slides. I'll give you my info here at the end. But these are the questions you have to start asking yourself. How old are they? Where do they live? What do they do for fun? What are they passionate about? And then what do they struggle with? When you begin to answer those, the game will change for you when it comes to knowing your ideal client. That's number one. Guys, number two is if you want social media to work, you've got to engage people on a daily basis. I cannot tell you how many people I speak to regularly that go, Kyle, man, what's the secret? How do I get my engagement up? And the first question I ask them is, well, what about you? Are you engaging with them first? Well, no, I'm busy. I don't have time. I forget. Guys, whether you believe in karma or you believe what the Bible says, which is we reap what we sow, it's all true, right? If you get out there and go out of your way to serve people, love people, put yourself out there, you're going to get that back. And so what I want to give you guys is what I've learned through a friend of mine called the 10-10-10 principle. And so what I want you to start with is your favorite platform. Your favorite platform should always be Facebook or Instagram. No other platform should be your favorite platform because that is where most people live and spend their time. And so 1 and 2 should be Facebook and Instagram in any order. Then we can throw in YouTube, LinkedIn, right? Anything after. But whatever it is, if it's Instagram for you, here's how the 10-10-10 principle works. I want you to spend 10 minutes every single day. And during those 10 minutes, I want you to swipe left across the stories and reply to 10 stories every day. When you reply to a story, guys, this drops you directly into someone's DM. You're now in their private message having a conversation. So 10 of those a day. I also want you to scroll down and comment on 10 people's posts. So that's the 10-10-10 principle. 10 minutes replying to 10 stories and commenting on 10 posts. Guys, think about this math. Think about if there's 365 days in a year. Think about if you just did this 200 of those 365 days, right? Barely half the time, but 200 days you did this. So you do this for 200 days times 10 comments, right? So that's what, 2,000 comments Is that good math? I don't know. 2,000 comments a day, a year, right? 2,000 replies a year. Guys, do you see as these numbers add up how many touch points you're putting on people? It's all about engagement. And so you've got to get people to engage with you, but most people aren't going to do it out of nowhere. You've got to start the ball rolling, right? And when you walk up to someone to introduce yourself for the first time, someone has to be the first to stick their hand out for a handshake. Be the initiator and watch this go extremely well for you. So you got to know your ideal client. You have to engage on a daily basis. And guys, here's the third of the big three. You've got to understand content compounding. And so this is what I want to share with you. But before I do, I want to share this quote real quick. The only thing you can control about social media is your commitment to keep moving forward. Guys, social media is fickle. Social media doesn't work sometimes. Social media will make you feel terrible because you think you just did something awesome, but you get 3 likes. But then something you thought was bad gets 100. And so it is that one thing in your life that you have complete lack of control of. So the people that I see do well on social media, the reason I do well on social media is because I'm committed to moving forward. If I mess up on a video, I do not let that scare me into not doing any more videos. If something goes wrong, I do not let that cause me to go, see, I told you, this is why I don't like social media. And then now it causes me to pull back even further. You've got to be committed to moving forward if you want this to work in your business. And so here's how content compounding works. Content compounding is a very simple formula. It starts, in my opinion, with a live video. So yes, I want to encourage you to start doing live video. And so when you do a live video, when you get to the end of that live video, before you hit post, there's another button on the opposite side that says save. So when you do this, do a live video on Facebook, hit save. It will save a high def version of that video on your camera roll. Now you can go into Canva, Canva, and you can go search YouTube thumbnail. And so you can create a YouTube thumbnail directly in Canva. If you've never used Canva, it's a powerful tool. It's really cool. And it's very user-friendly. So guys, now when you upload the video to YouTube, you can also upload your custom thumbnail so it looks professional. It looks well done, and it's not a frozen image of your face going like this, right? So that's why we create this thumbnail. But then here's where content compounding gets cooler, because now you can also upload that video to a website called rev.com, rev.com, and it will send you a transcription back of every word you said in that video. They charge you $1.25 a minute. And now, guys, you have a blog. So for those of you that don't see yourselves as writers, or you don't have time to write, but there's still millions of people that enjoy reading, now you can give them a blog. And guess what, guys? The same thumbnail that you just used for YouTube is now the cover image of your blog. And so now you've got video on Facebook, video on YouTube, and a blog on your website that you can now share across social media. But guys, here's the last part and where it gets even cooler. You can take the original piece of content and use it in multiple ways. You can create social posts, and I use an app called InShot. So what InShot allows you to do is, let's say that you did that video that you did live was 8 minutes. Well, I can pull it into InShot on my phone. I can trim it down to maybe a really powerful 40-second clip. And now I can use that on Instagram. I could put it in my story. I can share it on LinkedIn. And then down in the post, I can say, if you really like this video and you want to see the full length, boom, here's my YouTube link. And now I've got them to where I ultimately want them, which is to my full video. I can pull a quote out of the transcription, and I can make a social graphic out of it, much like I did with this. Guys, the way that I came up with this quote is I was watching back a video that I did, and I heard myself say it, and I went, dang, that's good. Did I invent that? Did I come up with that? And so now it serves as a social graphic that I can share on social media. And so, guys, this is how content compounding works. This is the beauty, right, of leverage. When you leverage the effort you're already putting into social media. And guys, here's what else is cool that I'm willing to give you. I have recorded an hour-long Zoom training where I am walking someone's assistant through the process of content compounding. So if you want it, I will send it to you because, guys, here's the beauty of why I created this like this. I'm not a dummy. I know that you guys are busy. I know that many of you on here, you're going to start this as a side hustle, but you've still got a full-time job, right? So I know that you don't have all the time in the world. Guys, I've created this platform, this flow, so that if you're willing to do the video, you could hire somebody to do the rest. You could have one of your teenagers do the rest, right? You could ask your sister who's more techie than you to help you with the rest. And that's where my training comes in, because I will provide you the Zoom video so that you can show whoever's going to help you how I do it. And it's me walking them through it. It's a beautiful thing. And so, guys, this is content compounding. If y'all have questions, put them in the chat. We'll have Q&A in just a minute. But I want to give you one last thing. Guys, this is the most powerful term that I believe you could learn when it comes to social media, and that is passive branding. Guys, passive branding is this. All right, passive branding is me being able to do videos with a hat on with my logo on it. I don't have to talk about it. I don't have to reference it. It just happens to be there. Guys, the other day, I got a new coaching client because they saw my Baltimore Ravens jersey on my wall. That's called passive branding, right? I've had people ask me, man, where'd you get that quote that right over my shoulder says, you were born enough? That quote reveals to people who I am. It reveals to people what I believe in. It reveals to people the desire that I have to see them be successful. And so that's passive branding. Guys, passive branding is incredible for you because you can tell any story on the planet, but you could start it with, man, I was making one of my cheese boards last night and you won't believe what happened. And so you just reminded people that you were making your cheese boards, right? That's passive branding. And so you've got to really get a hold of what passive branding can look like for you, because that's how we sell to people without feeling like we're salesy and punching people in the face all the time. It's all about passive branding. And so, guys, before we do Q&A, if you want my info, if you want to have a conversation after about something you're struggling with or just an issue you're having, here is my email, kyle@kyledraper.com. Here is my cell phone, 405-888-9119. It is on this page. And so please, please, please reach out to me. And I want to be able to help. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to pull Alfred, who's not even sitting in his chair back here. Hey, there he is.
There I am.
And so guys, if you have any questions in regards to social media, this is what we've got. We've got a few minutes for Q&A, and I'd love to answer anything you've got. If we don't, then we're gonna get out of here faster because we're gonna cut into our time. So,
any questions?
We need some Jeopardy music.
Right. Well, I hope Aaliyah is getting ready to gear up, and if we, and then we'll also have the time at the end for questions as well,
Yeah, we'll do Q&A at the end. Linda, I will send you the content compounding video. Thank you for being on here with us. All right, so I'm gonna pop myself out of here. Or no, I'm gonna pop you out of here and bring Aaliyah in. Or what about this? I'll bring all three of us in here first, and then we could say bye to Alfred together.
Seem a bit.
So, guys, I love this woman right here. If y'all don't know her,
Thank you.
Aaliyah and her husband Rob are incredible people. I love their passion for the Lord. I love their passion to serve, and I can't say enough good things. And so I'm not smart enough to even explain to you what she does in her law practice, because I don't even understand, because I'm not on her level. But you're about to be super blessed. And so, Aaliyah, thank you for being here. It is an honor to serve on this board alongside you. And the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kyle. And it's an honor to serve alongside you and Alfred and everyone. All right. So today let me go ahead and get my screen up here. We're talking about risky business. And I realize I only have 20 minutes to get as much information to you guys. So I'm going to try to click through it pretty quickly. At the end, I'll put up my contact information. That way, if you have any follow-up questions, you can by all means feel free to reach out to me. But, risky business. And, I always want to provide CYA tips for taking care of our business as entrepreneurs, as business owners. Oftentimes we focus on taking care of our business. We want to grow our business, and we neglect the legal side of the business, right? And that's a huge, if we want to have that longevity, if we want to be able to enjoy the profits and everything that we want to keep around for a very long time, you cannot ignore the legal, right? It is the elephant in the room that unfortunately not everyone talks about, but we certainly need to do so. All right, and because of the COVID-19 and stay-at-home orders and reopening of various states around the nation, I also want to focus a little bit on, some of the legal risk in doing so and some ways you can protect your business. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I always have to say and do is to give that legal disclaimer. And just remember that today's presentation is for educational purposes only. It's not a substitute for seeking tailored legal advice. Basically, my presentation here today does not create an attorney-client relationship between yourself, the viewer, and Derek Law PLLC. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. Again, in business, many times we have to take risk, but the more risk, the more legal problems, right? The more you grow, the more potential for legal problems. And the winning formula by and far is you want to keep your bottom line. You want to be able to hold on to your profits. And so the best way to do that is pay the little bit of money that's necessary to get that team around you, to get the attorney on your team, so that you don't accidentally step into some huge monumental legal lawsuit or investigation or problem that costs you tons of money. And when I say tons, I do mean sometimes in the millions, that could potentially bankrupt your business. All right. So you are engaging in risky business if you have failed to incorporate, if you're doing it yourself with regards to contracts that matter to your business, with the bread and butter of your business. If you are reopening amidst COVID-19 without a plan, and also if you violate hiring and firing laws related to employees, right? So how do you minimize those risks? Well, one way to do it, obviously you want to you want to choose the right business type and form and incorporate your business, right? Being a sole proprietor is where a place where a lot of people start, but that's not where you want to continue for very long. You also, in order for you to contract for success, for profits, for longevity, do it yourself. Even though it works if you're working around the house, it does not work well when if you're contracting for things that matter to your business, you have to CYA. And then, of course, again, you also want to see CYA when you're considering reopening your business amidst the COVID-19, because you need to have a pandemic response plan in order and in place. And then also you want to, many times there are tons of legal landmines as it relates to employees when you're hiring and labeling and even firing workers. So you have to look out for all of those important things. So we're going to start with the business formation. I'm going to move very, very quickly to try to at least give you guys the tip of the iceberg, if you will, of the surface, so that to start your minds thinking about what it is that you need to know. So with business formation, there are a total of 4 considerations that you want to keep in mind. Legal liability, the tax implications of the type of business entity that you choose, the type of laws and regulations that govern the type of business that you choose, and then also the funding and the length of existence that you want your business to exist. Meaning, if you want your business to continue on after you die or you retire, or if the business dies with you or retires with you. I'm going to focus on, we have a number of different types of entity types. I mentioned earlier, the sole proprietorship is where a lot of people start when their business is just an idea in their minds. And then you also have the limited liability company, the C Corp, you have the S Corp. You also have foreign domestic entities as well, general partnerships as well. Hopefully you guys are not colorblind, but if you are, you can still hopefully read. What I have on the screen here, I have those 4 considerations that you want to keep in mind. And then I have, red for if there's a disadvantage under that category, or green if there is an advantage. Because this grid shows us very quickly which of the entities has the advantages all the way across the board, particularly when you're starting out, right? And that entity is limited liability company, or the LLC. You notice the legal liability, it's advantageous because it's 100% the LLC is liable, rather than personal liability that would come in a general, let's say a general partnership or even a limited partnership. It's advantageous in the tax bracket as well, because you get to, it's one of the only entities that you as the business owner get to choose how you want to be treated for tax purposes. And that's just mind blowing, because obviously if I can choose, I'm going to figure out how can I pay the least amount of taxes, and I'm going to elect to be treated in that way. It's advantageous as well under the laws and regulations. Again, this is an area where as a member owner of your LLC, you get to choose what laws will apply and how you will be the laws that basically in your operating agreement, you'll set up how your company will run, and based on what you do in that setup will determine the laws that apply to you. And then also the whether or not you want to have it be funded, or the longevity of the company, the existence of the company, is also, again, a member's choice. Quick contrast, things such as the C Corp, you can see that there's disadvantage because of the double taxation that happens. Not only is the corporation itself, the C Corp itself, taxed, but then you also have the shareholders. Once the profits are paid out to the shareholders, that's taxed as well. So it's a double taxation. It's also very highly regulated. So that's something that you have to keep in mind when going into the C Corp. The S Corp is also, when it comes to the advantage of tax treatment, you avoid that double taxation there, which is great. But I always like to warn people, if you're going to do the S Corp to get that best tax treatment, that's all well and good, but you need to get someone like Alfred Record on your team, someone who is familiar with S Corps and the laws, the tax laws that apply. You can be a tax attorney, a CPA, but you got to get someone to guide you to make sure that you are structuring your S Corp properly and you are complying with all tax laws. Because guess what? Because it is the best tax treatment that you can put your company in, The IRS knows this as well. They know that you're going to pay less taxes as an S corp, and so they're going to be all the more vigilant, watching to make basically to see if you mess up. And if you do mess up, unfortunately, the penalty is very, very harsh. You go from having the best tax bracket to being automatically put into the C corp, which is the worst tax bracket from the double taxation standpoint, and you're forced to stay there for the next 5 years or so. So you got to get your tax professional on your team. Cover your assets by getting that person on your team. I'm not going to go into general partnerships or limited partnerships, except to say right off the bat, one of the main reasons that a business owner needs to incorporate is to get rid of the personal liability. And unfortunately, when it comes to general partnerships and even limited partnerships, you have to have a general partner who is 100% personally liable, which, in some ways defeats the purposes. There are other advantages that I don't have time to go into right now. But then moving on to the second tip that we want to talk about today, and that's contracting for success, profits, and longevity. Again, I mentioned this a little earlier. You can do some things, do it yourself, right? But some things you gotta CYA. You gotta cover your assets by calling your attorney. And I always, I like to give this example. We can go onto Amazon, just like you can go onto the World Wide Web, and you can purchase a brain surgery kit, like an operating kit, right? It'll have the scalpel, it'll have all the tools you need in that kit. And then you can go on to YouTube and you can watch videos about, this is how you conduct brain surgery. But the reality is, just because you have gone on and to look at how you do it, you don't then turn and conduct brain surgery on yourself. And the reason why is because you realize that the risk, yes, there's information to give it out there to give me free information on obtaining the tools I need, and even giving me a how-to video. But that in and of itself is not enough, because I can kill myself, right? And I know you're thinking, well, that's a pretty harsh view. But the reality is, in many ways, if there is a contract that matters to your business, let's say you are a legal staff or you are a staffing company. A contract that matters big time to your business is the contract between you and the companies where you will be placing some of your staff to work. And also the contract that deals with that you sign with the workers that you will be placing at different job sites, right? And so, sure, you could go online and you could potentially Google a contract from another staffing company or something like that. But you have to, and you should think to yourself, this is going to impact my business. I cannot afford to get this wrong. And I have had clients to come to us with that particular issue, where they just got a form, and that form did not fit their business. It gave them a template, a foundation of understanding that they needed a contract, but it didn't fit their business. And so they ended up being stiffed out of, quite a substantial amount of profit and money, because there were some provisions that they did not include in there. And so Google is fine to inform yourself, but you need to call your attorney to cover your assets, to help you build the proper contract that's going to be compliant with the laws in your state and specific to your particular business needs. Another contract you also want to CYA, the company operating agreement if it's an LLC, or the company agreement if it's a different type of entity. Several things you got to have in those agreements. You need to divorce proof them. You need to disability proof them. You need to death proof them, so that your business can continue in longevity long after any of those events happen. This slide just shows several of the various provisions that an LLC operating agreement should include. And then you also want to have some key provisions that prevent, let's say if you're going to have investors, prevents those investors from being able to take over your business and push you out. That you worked so hard, it was your brainchild, and you worked so hard to be able to do it. And we don't want to have a situation where you end up like famous Amos, right? You want to divorce proof your business by having some sort of community property provisions within that agreement. These are things that your attorney would be able to do for you. And I know some of you are saying, well, I'm not going to ever get divorced. Well, the fact is, or that you're single. And the fact is, if you're married, if you're divorced, or if you want to be married someday, or if you have a business partner who fits any of those categories, the odds are not that great, right? The odds are that 50 to 73% of marriages, unfortunately, end in divorce. Disney was lying to us, right? Now, hopefully you are in that 50% mark, but because of the 50 to 73%, and that 70, the odds that divorce will happen increases with each new divorce, meaning the second or third divorce, typically 73% of those in marriage, end in divorce. So you want to make sure that you have some provisions in your company operating agreement to deal with these issues, because you don't want your ex-spouse being named your business partner. You don't want the business being awarded to your ex-spouse, right? You don't want to be forced to sell your company, which oftentimes is the largest asset that we have. Because you have this huge divorce settlement that you have to satisfy. And so the community property provisions within an operating agreement or something that your attorney can do to help protect you from those sorts of things. And then now I want to get to something that probably a lot of people haven't really thought about, but that you really should be thinking. And that is, as we reopen amidst COVID-19, you need to CYA. You got to cover your assets by calling your attorney. OSHA has some guidance out there. And basically the some of the things that you need to be watching out for is that you have to, before you call them back, before you call your workers back, you need to develop a preparedness and response plan. That's the bottom line. You got to plan before you bring your employees back in, right? And part of that is part of that plan, you need to have some prevention measures in place. You need to that you implement in order to reduce workplace transmission of any infectious diseases, including COVID-19, right? And then you also want to, and even before I move on from that, just to give you some examples of what that might, some of those prevention measures might include. Many of us have gone to the grocery stores and we have seen that they have erected sneeze guards, right? So maybe if you have a lot of employees in an open area, you put some sneeze guards up, you get some desk dividers, you get some high efficiency filters. Maybe you want to do some modification to the ventilation system to pump more air to prevent it from just stagnating there. And of course, hand hygiene is something that we certainly have to continue doing. Another good thing that people may not think of is maybe you put on some extra shifts, meaning you alternate your employees work. That way you have fewer employees in a enclosed area, over a certain amount of time. And that way you're not having to pay people overtime, but you're spreading out the shifts of when your employees work. Perhaps they do alternating days. So these people work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. These people work Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Just different out of the box things that you can do for prevention measures, right? And you want to, of course, have PPE, personal protective equipment available for your employees, for your customers, and anyone who's going to be coming into your work environment. And very important, because I can't tell you how many times when my husband and we venture out to do our once a week grocery shopping, I can't tell you how many times I see people wearing masks and face coverings wrong. They'll have they'll have their nose exposed. They may have it dangling from one ear. The fact is, it only works as good if you know how to wear it properly. So as an employer, you want to train your employees on how to properly wear their personal protective equipment, the face mask and covers and things like that. If you don't have them, maybe invest in some no-touch trash bins. Things like that are great prevention measures that you can put in place. You want to develop, you want to implement, and then you want to communicate to all of your workers the flexibility that they have and the protections that you're putting in, measures that you're putting in place, right? You want to encourage sick employees to stay home, right? And you want to discourage risky behavior that employees may be out there doing, such as sharing phones or equipment and desk and things like that. Legal considerations before you open up your, you bring your workers back into the workplace. There are employment laws, the ADA, you have state orders, you have OSHA, you have federal and state privacy and security laws, that all of which you have to consider. And again, so this is why you want to call your attorney to cover your assets, so that you can help stop the spread of things such as COVID-19. But one of the things that you have to consider is, well, are we going to screen? Are we going to have the workers self-screen themselves, or are we going to have a designated workplace coordinator to do the screening before an employee enters the company, right? So those are things that you want to keep in mind. And the reason why the laws you have to consider is because typically under the ADA, it only allows an employer to do a health inquiry or to do a medical exam if it's job related and if there is a business necessity, right? And then similarly the EEOC, we can't discriminate against some employees with testing them and not others, right? But the good news is currently, and I do stress currently because laws change and guidelines change, but the way that they're currently set up, obviously a pandemic, a global pandemic, is a business necessity to help stop the spread. And so under the ADA and the EEOC, currently you are allowed to conduct to do temperature taking and to conduct COVID-19 diagnostic testing on your employees prior to allowing them to come in. You also have to check the state reopening laws because they differ in the measures that are allowed for health screenings and things like that. OSHA may require that, depending on how you're doing your screenings and the type of information that you're collecting. So OSHA may require that you retain the information that you've collected for quite a while, right? So so those are things that you want to you want to keep in mind for the legal considerations. And then of course the workers get to choose, right? They may have diabetes, they may have some of those pre-existing conditions that are prone to have a very adverse impact and even death, or they may live with someone who does. And so when you begin to reopen and you begin to call your workers back to the work site, some of your workers may object. They may refuse to return to work. And what happens in that situation? We know that there were sort of the PP loans from the CARES Act and things that some employers got, and those paycheck protection loan. Part of that is, hey, if you use this money to keep your workers employed, then you won't have to pay that back. Well, if you call your workers back and they refuse to come, how do you try to, not avoid having to repay those sorts of loans? And one way, and none of this is one way to kind of mitigate that is put your recall of the workers in writing. Make sure you have everything in writing. Make sure that if the worker says, hey, I can't return, make sure you get in writing the reason that worker says, I can't return because I suffer from high blood pressure or diabetes, or I have a child or a spouse who does, or they have some pre-existing condition. Get that in writing so that when it comes time to prove for things under the CARES Act and the PP loans and things like that, when it comes time for you to have to prove up the fact that you tried to bring your workers back to continue to pay them, that's in fact what you did, right? So document. What happens, and then this is one of the last parts of this, one of the bigger issues and risks that you have in reopening amidst COVID-19. But what happens if workers return and they get sick at the office, right? What happens? And here's the risk. The reality is, even though there's been some effort to look at immunity for employers, there's not likely going to be any blanket immunity. Whether you like it or you hate that, the reality is that's likely not going to come, right? The law is not yet settled. This is something, this global pandemic is something that is new. And so the law is still forming here. Cases, still have to get pumped through the courts and things like that. But if I can leave you with anything as it relates to this particular issue of the risk, you need to have something in place to identify sick workers. And if they're sick, you need to make sure that they send them home, that they are excluded from the workplace until it can be shown that they have improved, their health has improved, right? It's your job not to attract ill or sick employees to your workplace. And you may say, well, obviously I'm not going to do that. But here's the reality. Many times we do because of the policies that we have in place. Many of us have, as employers, will penalize workers for not showing up to work, right? And so this means we need to reevaluate those policies. We need to make modifications to the policies that we have in place. Maybe we need to consider doing paid leave because we want to encourage sick workers to stay home, right? And I mentioned a few moments ago, we need to identify sick employees as fast as we can and isolate them, right? So because we have to stop the spread. So what happens if that happens? Well, you need to have some mandatory policy already in place for a sick worker to let workers know they have to notify you if they have to disclose if they're sick, right? They have to disclose if they have tested positive for COVID-19, or if someone that they live with, that they quarantine with, has tested positive for COVID-19, right? And in those situations where they have tested positive, you want to have some policy in place where they already know they're going to have to stay home for a certain amount of time, right? For example, they have to stay home until they are 3 days fever free. They have to stay home until they're 3 days. Maybe their respiratory system has been improved for 3 days. Just different measures like that. Another thing that you want to do, you have to be careful to make sure that you're doing when you have that mandatory quarantine, is you got to do what I'm sure a lot of us have heard of, and that's contact tracing. You have to, the ADA law we mentioned a little earlier cautions us against giving up too much information. So yes, you may have to say to your other employees that someone has tested positive, but you cannot and do not provide the specific name of the individual who is tested positive unless you get a written waiver from that worker saying that it's okay to let the workers know their identity, right? And so you want to avoid those sorts of things. Now, there may be government entities from your local government, your local city government, state government, and in instances like that, again, you have to be very guarded about the information, the specific information that you provide. You want to give limited notice to anyone who works in the vicinity with that individual, that worker who tested positive. And then, of course, you want to clean and sanitize to the best of your abilities. Right. And I'm not sure where I am on time. So if I'll continue on until someone tells me otherwise. But the last part of what we want to focus on here is the landmines for employees. And this deals with hiring workers, mislabeling workers, if there's wage theft, if there's an employee who steals from the company, right? And then disciplining and firing workers as well. So all of these are areas that, because there are so many different employment laws that and agencies that handle these matters, you can Google information to try to get a somewhat of an understanding, but you want to avoid, for example, in interviews, there are certain questions that you shouldn't be asking. You shouldn't be asking employees potential employees or the potential workers, well, how old are you, right? Because that could be deemed as age discrimination if you fail to hire that person, right? Or ask them questions, well, do you have any children? Or, just certain things that may seem harmless, but potentially could be used against you later. Or if you see a woman and you say, oh, are you expecting? Well, there's pregnancy discrimination laws, right? So you want to keep your questions to business necessity. What information do you absolutely need to know in order to run your business? If, for example, if you were running a daycare, well, you're going to have to do a background check to make sure that the people, the workers you expose the children that you service to don't have, a background of child molestation or, things of that nature. But if it's totally unrelated, it's not a business necessity to get that information. You may be hard pressed if you are using basically, information, interview questions, background checks to screen out or discriminate against potential employees or workers, right? If you mislabel the workers, that's an issue, right? For independent contractors or this is a big one. So sometimes we, as entrepreneurs or new business owners, we figure out very quickly, if you label them as an employee, I'm going to have to pay, the company is going to have to pay the IRS withholdings. There's going to be employment taxes that we have to pay, Social Security, and all of these other taxes that we as employers have to pay for those employees. But the reality is, if that employee, if that worker is essential to your business, meaning your business could not operate without that worker, then more than likely they are. And let me stop and say, the test for independent contractor varies based on if it's the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor has its test. You have the EEOC has its test. And so again, this is an area where you want to chime in. You want to CYA, you want to call your attorney to cover your assets to make sure you're properly labeling them. The summertime comes, we start having interns. Should they be paid? Should they not be paid? There are a lot of different laws that and guidance, guidelines on the laws, the interpretation of how laws are applied that you need to be aware of in order to answer questions like those, as well as wage theft, whether it be, this is another one. I can't tell you how many times folks will come and they'll say, well, the employee is hourly and they have provided me with their hourly timesheet, and I just took some of the hours off, or I just rounded off because they're only supposed to work 40 hours. You cannot do that. That's called wage theft, right? And it could cost you severely if the Department of Labor if they get wind of that and they come in and they do an internal audit of your company and your business, right? So those are things that you want to avoid. Also, you want to avoid, being discriminatory in your disciplining of workers or in firing workers, demoting workers. All of these things are things that you want to get legal assistance before you decide to implement one way or the other. So that concludes the information that I'm talking about today. If you have any questions, or if you need to protect your business, which we all do, in order to have success, profits, and longevity in your business for a very long time, feel free to contact me. My information is up on the screen. You can contact me via email or by phone. We do have offices in both Dallas and Houston. And so if you're in any of those areas or those metroplex, definitely reach out to me. And if I don't have the answers that you need, I will certainly try to direct you to someone who does. Thank you so much for your time. I'm not sure if we have any questions.
Aaliyah, that was great. That was awesome. I was listening going, ooh, I need to do a lot of those things. So that's uncomfortable, but welcomed. Guys, if you have questions, we'll wait for just a sec to see if any questions come in. Again, Aaliyah, as well as the rest of us, will be a part of the Q&A at the end. So if you want to think about a question and you don't have it right this second, that's totally fine. But if you do have one, please ask, because we've got, how often do you get free advice from an attorney? Right now. This is the only time.
So educational advice.
That's right. She already gave. I don't give a disclaimer. Do I need to give disclaimers when I teach about social media?
I mean, it doesn't hurt. It certainly does not hurt.
Man.
But I think as what if you're giving out medical advice, legal advice, anything that someone can come back and sue you over, you want to give
Right.
that advice that, hey, this is for educational purposes. You need to talk to me personally if you want to have a a more tailored approach to your business.
Absolutely. Well, Leah, thank you again for being on here with us. We're gonna pop you. I'm gonna put you back down in the green room, and then you'll be back on
Bye,
here in a
guys.
little bit. So, Alfred, bro, we're halfway done, man.
Man, we're halfway there already. Hey, we want to give everyone a chance to go stretch. If you need to go use the restroom, quick 2-3 minute break. And while we're doing that, we're going to still stay logged in and try to get engagement for everyone. So everybody who's out there watching, normally when we're together live and actually in person, you would actually have an opportunity to network. So while you're going this, before you go stretch or while you're stretching or going grab you some coffee or grabbing something to eat or drink, go ahead and type in the comments, guys. Let us know that you're here. Let us know where you're from. If there's anyone from Fort Worth, Arlington, out of the city, drop it in the comments. Let's hear from you. Hey, if you have a business, and a lot of you that are logged on probably do have a business, go ahead and drop your business in the comments.
Yeah, tag your business page.
Tag your business page.
We can all go support you.
Put your website on there. There's several people that are actually logged in now and joining us, so they may need your service. They may need your product. So go ahead and drop it in the comments and let's see who we have out there. What service do you provide? Dropping the tag to your actual page on Facebook or Instagram, your website, with services you provide. Let's hear from you guys, and make sure that you guys asking your questions or getting your questions ready, because we want to make sure that we are hitting the subjects and talking about the things that you want to know about, answering your questions. We are here to serve you. We're a nonprofit. Nobody is on staff. Nobody gets paid for this, for what we're doing. This is truly a service to the community at large.
Right. That's right. So we're gonna take a quick break. I'm going to go to the bathroom because I've been sitting here for a long time. Other people I'm sure need to as well. And guys, we will be right back. What is up, everybody? We are back.
We are back, guys, live and direct. Good to see you guys.
That was a quick break.
Yeah. We are virtual. It's my first time having a virtual break. I don't know about you.
I've done a few of them, but not a lot.
Yeah, that was definitely different. But hey, guys, again, if you're watching us right now, we want you to definitely drop in the comments your questions, your business. Okay, tag your business in the comments. We want to network with you. We want to support you. We want to support local businesses, minority businesses. We want to support you. So put your website in the comments. Yep. Tag your business, your Facebook page, your Instagram tag, whatever it is. We want you to drop that in the comments so we can support you, and the other ones that are here will support you as well.
Yeah, guys, that's why we're here. You know, that Alfred, that's actually, you know, my favorite part every summer is getting to rub shoulders with everybody and learn and grow and, you know, meet new people. And so, you know, that's the one part that kind of stinks about doing it like this is we miss that part. Yeah. But if everybody will tag their businesses and put your information in the comments, then we can kind of virtually accomplish it a little bit similar.
Yeah, as best as we can, you know, but we're definitely here to support everyone. And so I think we're about ready to march on forward to the next session, which is going to be presented by myself.
So, guys, we've learned about social media. We've learned about business law and corporations and how to know where you fit. We've talked about COVID-19 and preparing your business for the reopening. Right? We've already covered so much in such a short amount of time, and we're not stopping, because we've got two more dynamic presentations right now by our fearless leader, the man that had the vision for this entire thing, right? The man that saw the need for help with young entrepreneurs. And so he is why Empowered DFW exists. He is Alfred Record. He is a teacher turned entrepreneur. He's got a cool story. He is a baller at taxes, which I know none of us need, right? Nobody ever needs tax help, but I'm super pumped to introduce him to you guys. Alfred Record, one of my buddies, one of my good friends. Bro, take it away.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Kyle. I appreciate it. And like you had said, I was a teacher, you know, about 4 years ago. I taught for 4 years. And before I get into the actual presentation, you know, like you had mentioned, Kyle, when you started, I get paid to prepare tax returns, you know, and it is it's an essential business, you know, in essence, because one thing that we know that is certain about life is death and taxes, as the quote goes. So we know that taxes have to be done. It's you know, in theory, what pays our government to help to govern our affairs and our lives, and for schools and all of those things. A lot of people are excited about tax season, and a lot of people are not. You stand on one side of the fence or another. But my job and why I get paid is to help with that process of preparing those taxes, right? You know, I actually try my best to make sure that it's a painless process, as painless as possible. And one of the things that I had to figure out when I was going along and building up my clientele was that you have to know your value and your worth. You have to know, you know, based upon the market and what your expertise is and you know, your industry, how much to charge. And so I recently had to get to the place of where I charge what I charge, and I can give discounts and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, you have to know your value to know how much to charge. And then you find those clients who are willing to pay what your charge is for your product or for your service, right? And so that's a valuable lesson that I had to learn here recently, as to, you know, your business may not be for everybody. Your service may not be for everyone, but there are ones who need your service, especially if it is a necessity business, like in the event of what I offer, which are tax services and accounting services. So I'm going to get ready to dive right on in. So we're going to be talking about business taxes. we're going to be talking about becoming audit resistant, and we're going to talk about at the end EIDL and PPP in a little bit more detail. We don't have a whole lot of time, and there's a lot to cover when you're talking about taxes. And so I'm not going to get into too deep of detail, but I will get into some level of detail so you can get something out of this. All right, so let's get started. So typical deductible expenses, I'm gonna go right into some sole proprietor deductions. Leah has already talked about some of the differences in business formation. We're going to talk a little bit more specifically in our time together about sole proprietors. Okay. Now the IRS does consider a single member LLCs as a disregarded entity or a sole proprietorship as well. So that's one of the things that I often tell new people or new business owners. Just because you go out and get your LLC, that protects you on the legal side, but to the IRS and in the IRS's eyes, you are still considered a sole proprietor. Okay, which basically means that you have more flexibility, and the money that you pump into your business to get it going, the difference between personal and business is still a little bit intermingled in the IRS's eyes. All right. So some of the typical expenses that you would have that are deductible as a sole proprietor are gifts to clients, meeting expenses with vendors, lunch or coffee. When you actually are going out and meeting with people or potential clients to discuss business, you need to keep that receipt and write on that receipt who was in attendance in the meeting and basically what the business purpose was. That's going to help you in the event of an audit. All right. Advertising expenses, when you get your website, you take professional headshots, business cards, Facebook boost, all of those things are deductible. Your business insurance costs are deductible as well. Any supplies, your phone expenses, if you have a phone in your office or if you're using your cell phone, the percentage of the amount of that you're using for your personal cell phone for business purposes is also deductible. If you have any furniture that you purchase in your house for business, or if you have an office and you put furniture in your office, that is also deductible and can be subject to depreciation. Car and truck expenses are also deductible. Now, you can only take either the standard mileage deduction or you can take an actual expense deduction for car and truck. So basically what I mean is you can't do both. So you can't write off gas, you can't write off oil changes, you can't write off those 2 new tires that you bought for your business vehicle last year, and then also take a mileage deduction. So if you're tracking your mileage and your actual business mileage with a program like Mile IQ, an app called Mile IQ, or other mileage programs, you can only take the mileage deduction, or you can go up and add up all of your receipts from when you did repairs on your vehicle or your oil changes and gas and things like that. But you can't do both. Okay, so that's the main thing I want to get across on that. Generally speaking, your business mileage is going to be the better deduction, and it's a little easier to track because who wants to keep extra receipts, right? There's also a certain thing called office and home expense. So if you don't have an actual office that you go to, and this is becoming even more and more important right now during this pandemic that we're in, a lot of people are working from home, right? Because the kids have had to stay at home, and more people are working from home now. So if you're working from home and it's your business, then you have an office and home expense that you get to take on your tax return. Now, if you're working for your employer at home, and you're using an office in your home for your employer because you're employed, that is not an expense. Okay, we don't get to write that off on our taxes. You only get to write it off on your taxes if you have your own business that you're operating out of your home. And if you are, then you get to take expenses and write-offs such as your internet that you're operating in your house and have to pay for. A portion of your rent or your mortgage can also be deducted as well. Okay, so that could be a write-off, some of your mortgage, not all of it now, don't get too excited, but only a percentage, and it's based upon the square footage of your house and the square footage of your office in your house. Office furniture that you put inside the house, phone and fax as well. So make sure that you have someone that's working with you on your taxes and make sure that you're getting that office and home expense. Now, I just covered a few brief ones because we got a lot to cover, and there's a lot of other write-offs that we can take, but you need to seek your tax professional to get even deeper into everything that you can write off for your business. Those are just a few common ones. Now, tax avoidance versus tax evasion. Myself, I'm an enrolled agent, and a lot of people don't know what that is. But basically, an enrolled agent is kind of similar to a CPA. Most people know the term CPA or certified public accountant. But what an enrolled agent is basically a tax specialist, and they are recognized by the IRS. And I can actually represent you in tax court before the IRS. Rather, I can actually represent you as the client. If you're just a tax preparer, you cannot represent your client before the IRS in that way. But as an enrolled agent, you can. Okay, and all CPAs don't handle taxes. Some CPAs stay away from taxes. They do other accounting. All enrolled agents only do taxes. That's what we do. So I bring it up to say that there's a difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. Tax evasion is illegal. Okay. You have to pay your share of taxes living in this country and in this state. Right. But my job as an enrolled agent and all good tax preparers, our job is to try to help you to avoid taxes as much as possible, or reduce and limit your tax liability. And there is a difference. So tax avoidance is legal, is okay. But tax evasion is what will get you in trouble, especially during times of audit. So you want to make sure that you are limiting legally your tax liability as much as possible, and doing what you need to do in tax planning to make sure that you don't have some big, huge tax bill at the end of the year when tax time comes because you have failed to properly tax plan. Okay, so tax planning and tax avoidance go right hand in hand, but you're not going to have the avoidance if you don't plan. Now, record keeping practices. This is what will help you to stay more audit resistant. Okay, some audits are just random and you'll get audited sometimes with your business, but these are acceptable forms of records by the IRS. Receipts, this is what they want to see. They want to see receipts, receipts, receipts. And even if they're digital receipts, that's fine. They want to see audited financial statements. Okay, your profit and loss statement. You need to get your business to the point to where you're keeping track of your profit and your loss in a profit and loss statement prepared, preferably by an accounting company, because they're going to make sure that the books are tight. All right. And they want to see those receipts. Like I said, now bank statements, the IRS do not prefer bank statements so much, even if they're from your business account. They want to see where you actually got the receipt for that business purpose of that lunch or that trip or whatever that thing is that you're writing off. The business account statements, they do not prefer. And I've gotten this from trainings that I've gone to over the years in IRS conferences. They want to see a mileage logbook. So if you're taking that mileage deduction when you drove 5,000, 10,000, whatever miles for the year for business purposes, they want to see that logbook or that mileage log. And you can use Mile IQ, like I said, again, to keep up with that. And it'll give you a log for the year when you actually drove your car for business purposes and not just all of your miles, right? Because we know that you don't always drive your car for all business purposes unless you have a separate car set aside that's just for business. And you have to keep documentation of that. You need to keep these records for at least 5 years. That's a general rule of thumb on statutes of limitations. So I recommend that you keep your records for 5 years. Some would say 3, but I would say 5 to be on the safe side. And it's easier now since we have so much technology and things are digital now to just keep those things on a thumb drive instead of, all of these stacks and stacks of papers. And then I put on here the Cohen rule. The Cohen rule is basically I don't want to say it's a loophole, but it's a rule or a piece of legislation that was put into place to basically help people to still be able to substantiate their write-offs, even though they don't have physical receipts. It's something that they have different court cases on this, and they instill or apply what's called the Cohen rule to where some people just in their business are not able to keep receipts because of the type of business that they run, or it's too hard for them. And so sometimes the Cohen rule can be applied and sometimes accepted by the tax court and the IRS. So in an audit, you're not having to come up with so much of tax penalties and taxes that you have to pay because of these write-offs were disallowed. The Cohen rule helps with those cases. So just keep that in mind, that there is some help through the Cohan rule in case you don't have all of your receipts or are not able to keep your receipts. Moving on, for sole proprietors that are having to do a Schedule C for your business, which is your tax return in a sense for your business, you are subject to self-employment tax, which is an additional 15% tax on top of your regular tax. So that's the one thing about being self-employed as a sole proprietor, is that all of your profits over $300 are subject to self-employment tax. Now, there is no real way around that unless you change the formation of your business, or if you elect to become a S corp. But S corp, if you're an S corp, then there's other implications on that as well. You do have a personal liability. So basically, the IRS sees you and your business as basically one and the same, which is why you have to pay that extra self-employment tax, because that self-employment tax is your contribution into Social Security, which is what you would normally be contributing if you were working for someone. And then also the IRS allows 2 consecutive years to show your business at a loss, or business deductions can be disqualified and become a hobby instead. And I always, preach this to in my classes that 3 out of 5 years you have to show profit, or what's called the profit motive, or the IRS can and will disallow your business expenses, because they're not going to just allow you to, 4, 5, 6 years, you're running the same business and you're not making any money. Well, is this really a business or is this a hobby? And so they'll go back and disallow all those write-offs and those losses that you put on your tax return, because you're in essence reducing your tax liability with those losses and not paying your fair share of the taxes. And then as a sole proprietor, your business will die with you. If you're a sole proprietor, once you're gone, then your business is pretty much gone in the eyes of the IRS, versus if you have formed your business as a C corp or other ways, then it can continue on. Even though you may die, your business can continue on and its actual entity continues on, because it is a complete separate person from you. These are some corporate allowable deductions here. Home insurance, health insurance. So once you actually incorporate and you're not just a sole proprietor anymore, then all of these different deductions come into place. Company cars, college funds, group term life insurance, all of these things become into play when you actually are an incorporation versus just being a sole proprietor. And some of these also can be intertwined as well with being a sole proprietor as well. Estimated quarterly taxes. If you are self-employed and you're going to have a tax liability of $1,000 or more, the IRS expects for you to pay estimated quarterly taxes. Okay. So if you're fully self-employed, this is especially important for you. You need to calculate and pay your estimated taxes. And these are the deadlines: April 15th, June the 15th, which both of those have been extended due to COVID to July the 15th this year. But normally they're due April 15th for the first quarter, second quarter, June 15th, September 15th, and January 15th. Okay. So remember, pay your estimated taxes especially if you're fully self-employed and are going to owe $1,000 or more in taxes, because they will penalize you if you just pay it all in that one whop when you go to file your taxes and you haven't done your estimated quarterly taxes. The IRS will penalize you, and they're doing that more and more. I've seen it for myself. So make sure you're paying your estimated quarterly taxes. If you need help on getting that calculated, contact your tax professional, and they can help you to calculate what that amount is every quarter. And this is based upon profit and loss statements, right? So this is why you have to have your books in order, because in order to estimate it, you need to know, well, where do you stand for this quarter, profit and loss wise, right? And to be able to estimate those taxes. All right, moving on. Let's talk about EIDL. So the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan is what EIDL stands for. Okay. You can borrow up to $2 million. Here are the interest rates for small businesses and nonprofit are there on the screen. The terms are up to 30 years. Eligibility is based upon the size and type of business and financial resources. Now, a lot of people out of business, or the businesses were affected by the pandemic. So that's why this EIDL is so important. Now, this didn't just come out of the air. just this year. It's actually something that's been in place for many years, but because of the nature and scope of this pandemic, this EIDL loan has become more and more popular and used by businesses large and small. So how can you use the loans? That loan, fixed debts like rent, you can use it for payroll, you can use it for your accounts payable, and some bills that could have been paid had the disaster not occurred. This is how you can use these funds. Now, how you cannot use the funds are to pay dividends and bonuses to your officers, okay, or stock owners. You cannot use the loan for those purposes. Disbursements to owners unless for performance of services, to repayment of stockholders and principal loans. You cannot expand your facilities or get new fixed assets with this loan either. Okay, so you can't, I always wanted to go and open up this extra office. No, we don't. You can't use the loan money for that, for expansions of facilities. You cannot use it for repair or replacement of physical damages, refinancing long-term debt, okay, and relocation. So all of these are things that we may think about doing or would normally do in our normal scope of business, but you cannot use the EIDL funds for these purposes. All right, so the Payroll Protection Program. This is a different fund or loan called the PPP, and this actual loan is geared more towards payroll. Replacing payroll is the main function of this particular program, and it's separate from the EIDL. So it provides small businesses with funds to pay up to 8 weeks of payroll costs, including benefits. Now, they just had some legislation to change, and I'm going to cover that in just a minute in another slide, so where it's going to actually be more than 8 weeks. Funds can be used also to pay interest on mortgages, rent, and utilities. So if your business has a mortgage or you own an actual property and you're paying that mortgage, then the funds can be used to pay that mortgage interest as well. It can be used to pay your rent that you pay in your business and the utilities that your business is paying as well. So the PPP can be used for those, but it's mainly primarily used for payroll and replacing that payroll. Now you need an EIN. Hopefully you have your EIN or your tax ID, and you need to get your profit and loss statements in order to qualify for the PPP. Now, these payroll costs can be for, again, salary, wages, commissions, and tips, and they are capped at $100,000 per employee. Okay, this is what the PPP is for and is used for. Employee benefits, including costs for vacation, state and local taxes, for sole proprietors, for your wages. The PPP can be used for that. That's what these payroll costs can be used for. Commissions that you receive that applies for like real estate agents, or your own income or net earnings from self-employment. Now, net earnings is, basically your net profit, what's left over. It's used to replace that as a sole proprietor, because a lot of times sole proprietors don't quote unquote pay themselves, but they keep the money that's left over after they've paid their expenses for their own personal use. And that's, again, capped at $100,000. Other eligible costs are interest on mortgage obligations, rent under lease agreements, and utilities. So again, just like in the EIDL, you can also use the PPP money for utilities, rent, and interest on your mortgage as well. Now, forgiveness conditions for the PPP. The loan proceeds covered approved costs, so they have to be approved costs. Your number of employees must be maintained. So they're doing this to try to get you to keep your employees employed versus letting them go to try to save costs. And then the compensation levels are maintained. So this is how it gets forgiven. Now, the PPP can be 100% forgiven, basically meaning that you don't have to pay the funds back. But with the EIDL, that one is only forgivable up to $10,000. And that's based upon a grant. So it can be forgiven up to $10,000 for the EIDL. PPP can be 100% forgiven if it's used the correct way for payroll. Now, to get forgiveness, you have to request the loan forgiveness. You're not just going to necessarily automatically get it. So this is very important. you have to request to get the forgiveness. It's not automatic, especially for the PPP. You need to submit a written request to your lender, and then it should include the documents verifying your full-time equivalent employees, your employee pay rates. All this needs to be in writing, okay, documented. The payments on eligible mortgage, payments on lease, payments on utilities. So what I would suggest is open up another business account, open up another bank account that EIDL or that PPP money is going to deposit it into that account, and then only use these qualified expenses from out of that account. So that way it's very easy to track what that money was used for, and that way it can be forgiven and more easily forgiven by the SBA. So you want to have a separate account set up for that PPP loan and for the EIDL loan. Now, if your loan is not forgiven, you have a 2-year repayment term. Again, this is for PPP, 0.5% interest rate. You have 6 months of deferral. Interest will accrue during that deferral period. But if you paid in advance, there are no penalties. So there is no prepayment penalties if you pay back the loan in advance. But the interest will accrue on that loan during the deferral period. Now, there are some questions that came up that I found that were frequently asked, and I want to quickly go over those to make sure that we understand some of the most frequently asked questions on PPP. So we've already talked about what EIDL can be used for. How much can you qualify for with the EIDLs? Up to $2 million. The terms of the EIDL is a 3.75% APR for up to a 30-year term. So it's like a mortgage amount, which makes your repayment very small, right? You should already know how to apply for it. How much of the EIDL is forgivable? Again, like I said, up to $10,000 as an emergency grant upon approval. Can you apply to both PPP and EIDL? Yes, you can apply for both, but you cannot use the funds for the same purpose in both loans. So in other words, if you get both, you can only use one of the funds for payroll and get that forgiveness. So if you get the PPP loan, then use your the funds out for that account or for that PPP for payroll, and don't try to double dip and use it also for the EIDL. So you have to choose one or the other. Okay, but you can't use the funds from both loan programs for the same purpose. Okay. I think that was most of the questions. I think we've already answered most of the other ones. If you want to apply, you need to go to sba.gov, and the PPP is provided through your local banks. And I would suggest to go to a smaller bank versus the larger ones for the PPP because of the processing time. And I've been seeing that they've been improving people a lot quicker and at a higher rate at the smaller banks. Okay, payroll protection. We're getting ready to wrap up. Payroll protection program changes. Now, these are the changes that just came out, and I think were just approved today or yesterday. They were just waiting on the signature from President Trump. But this now extends the PPP lifespan from June the 30th, which is coming up really soon, to the end of the year to use the loan proceeds. So basically, they've given us now. They just signed this into law. That you can have to the end of the year to use the loan proceeds. They've also extended the period which businesses may spend PPP loan funds from 8 weeks after issuance to the earlier of either 24 weeks after issuance or by the end of the year. Okay, so they want you to go ahead and apply that money to paying your employees now, but they're giving you all the way through the end of the year. A couple of the other program changes specifies that the loans can be forgiven even if the number of full-time employees decreases, as long as the employer can prove that you attempted to rehire the same number of employees, right? So if your number of employees decrease, you have to be able to prove that you tried to rehire them. And Aaliyah had mentioned earlier, even if they may decide not to come back to work due to different circumstances in their home, you just have to prove and show in writing that you tried to rehire the same number of employees in order for that money to be forgiven. Okay. And it also lowers the amount that must be spent on payroll to be eligible for forgiveness from 75% to 60%. So basically, 60% of the loan that you receive has to be spent on payroll instead of 75%, which it was before. So this eases it up some. So it's not so much of the money has to be used just on payroll for it to be forgiven. Now it's just 60%. And this is based upon legislation that they just put into place a day ago. All right, so that covers the PPP and EIDL, audit resistance, and some basic business taxes. Again, I could talk about this for another hour because there's so much to unpack with this, but I wanted to make sure that you had at least the general information that you needed. And my information and my company's information is on the screen. Should you, would you like to, if you would like to set an appointment to talk a little bit more into detail, email us at taxpro@lifetaxfinancial.com or call us at 214-267-9810. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to sit down and talk with you about your specific business needs as it relates to these loans, as well as taxes and accounting. So that is my portion.
Good job, bro. Man, that's so good. You're a great teacher, speaker, communicator. Surreal deal. So guys, if you've got questions, we've got a couple minutes that we can jump into a couple questions if we've got any. If not, again, like we said, Alfred will be on with the rest of us at the end, and we'll do some Q&A as well if there are questions. So if you've got any, put them in the comments. If not, Alfred, we're gonna move on to the star of the show.
Yes, you're ready.
The star of the show, and I'm gonna leave you up here with me so that we can both. I feel like both of us should introduce Miss Frances.
Yeah. I first met Miss Frances about, I think it was 2 years ago at one of her classes, and it was a lunch and learn. And I was just in there, like, oh yeah, let me go, and ended up getting a lot more out of it than I anticipated. I was like, man, I needed to be here with this information. I was like, this woman knows what she's talking about. And what I loved is how engaged she was with the attendees of the class. So she was like, okay, what's going on with your business right now? Okay, this is what you're doing. And she was answering questions right then on the spot and helping people with actual strategies for their business right there in the class. I loved it. So now I'm ready. I got my notepad ready.
Guys, Miss Frances is I think the easiest way to say it is she is a business wizard.
Well,
she's a business wizard, and so she's got a really big brain, but an even bigger heart.
Right.
And so, as always, Miss Frances, it's an honor to have you be a part of the summit.
Thank
you. And Alfred and I are going to get out of the way so that you can give us all of your knowledge.
Thank you so much. First of all, both Alfred and Kyle, I want to thank you for having this. It's an important time in America for you to be an entrepreneur. And because of that, we need to take advantage and leverage, that's your key word for today, leverage every aspect of this American economy. We're going to look at 5 stages of sustainability after COVID. So the big topic is the power of leverage. Each stage provides you with tools and an understanding of what you need to do. I don't care if you are a first-time business owner. I don't care if you have a side hustle. I don't even care if you messed up. Now is the time for you to leverage. Okay, everybody has to leverage. If you don't leverage, what's going to happen is you're going to go out of business. And currently in America, we're going through a period called contraction. Write that word down, contraction. Contraction happens in America when businesses have massive layoffs. See, when you hear about 30 million people were laid off due to COVID-19 or due to just bankruptcy. When you see Del Monte, 89-year-old company, Hertz, a 100-year-old company, contraction is happening. So if they're contracting and going into bankruptcy, Some may come back after this contraction period, but what's going to happen is they're going to reset. So it is your time to reset. Could you go to the next slide, please? Kyle? Okay, so who am I? My name is Frances Medine. I'm the executive director of the Zan Wesley Holmes Jr. Community Outreach Center, which is located at 4600 Spring Avenue. That's where we operate out of Fraser House. And I'm also a small business owner. I own the Financial Educator LLC, which is a S Corp. And I'm an adjunct mathematics professor at Richland College. Next slide, please. During this session, we're going to look at 5 tips that you can take advantage of. The first tip is the reset, to reset your company. The second one is mastermind. The third one is innovation. The fourth one is leverage. And the fifth is taxes. Everyone today has given you a few tips that you could take away today and implement them right away. I'm wrapping up and I'm sort of connecting all the dots from each speaker. I'm connecting the dots from social media, how to leverage. I'm connecting the dot from the legal side on how to leverage from the tax side. And then I'm going to give you some well-defined things in the leverage section that you can look at. Next slide, please. Okay, so stage 1 of the reset of this American economy will require you to do some steps. One of those steps, and it requires you to take 90 minutes, 1 day a week, and begin planning session, a implementation session, and an execution. So if you look at your business model, and if you divide it by quarters, let's say the first quarter, January, February, March, second quarter, April, May, June, we're in the second quarter of the year. So during the second and the third quarter, over the next 90 days now, you need to begin the process of planning. And you also need to begin the process during your planning sessions for 90 minutes once a week of saying, during this session, I need to implement social media. What tools do I need? When am I going to implement them? And when am I going to actually execute? So when you do that, then you have a roadmap. You're creating a roadmap for you to be more efficient, effective, and scalable. So let me repeat that. You're going to, for once a week, over a 90-day period, starting today, for 90 minutes, do your planning session. Then you're going to label what quarter will I execute and what quarter will I implement. Because sometimes you become overwhelmed, and I don't want you to get too overwhelmed that you're not able to give yourself a lot of time as you're scaling into a new model after stage 1, the reset. Next slide. Also, with the reset, I talked about each one of these stages, planning, implementation, and execution. You could go ahead to the next one. I just give examples here and we could go back later. But in stage 2 of this whole roadmap, you're going to select and form a team of individuals you could do business with. You cannot do this by yourself, folks. When you're in business, we think that we could be the long rangers and we can't. So what we must begin to do is have mastermind, talk to other people, get their ideas, see if what you're thinking is on track or not. a lot of times I know, and I'm a coach, and I coach a lot of professional female business owners, and they're just scared because they don't want anybody to take their idea, and that is a fear to have, but you need to have a non-disclosure agreement in your mastermind. Having a non-disclosure agreement, what we talk about in the group stays with the group. It doesn't go and filter out, and you don't want to see your idea or your thought replicated because you haven't really worked it through. Have a non-disclosure agreement. And over this 90-day period, at least once a month, meet with your team. Also be open to criticism. A lot of times we're not open to criticism. It's our way or the highway, and we don't want to really hear what other people have to say, but they could be telling you something good. Trust me, people come into the center all the time and they give me a lot of criticism. Now, some people, I say to my staff, we're here to listen because we have to get someone else's perspective. And that's what you're doing. You're getting someone else's perspective. But once you receive that perspective, you're going to be able to determine if that fits or if it doesn't fit with your business model. Thank you. Go ahead, next slide. Stage 3 is the innovation stage. During your 90-day journey, research ways you can incorporate various innovation tools into your business model. For example, identify software tools, apps, YouTube, Google Docs, Facebook, scheduling software, payroll software, QuickBooks. You can no longer do it all yourself. You must implement some type of technology during this period of time to enhance and provide you the scalability that you need. What happens a lot of times in business, when people first start their business, they're gung-ho, they're making some money, and then there's a disruption. Software in the innovation stage will help you address the disruption. All of these big businesses, multi-international businesses going out of business, guess what? They're going to come back. They might rename themselves or rebrand themselves, but they're coming back. I mark my word. But they're not going to come back the old way. They're going to come back now innovative, robotic, automated. So you must do the same thing too in order to do what? Keep up. You have to come back innovative and automated. So that's why this research phase for your business is essential. Next slide. Stage 4, leverage. I'm going to take a little time on this particular slide because I want you to understand where you will be able to leverage the most. In leverage, we're going to look at what you already know, the first two, OPM, other people's money. Number 2 is OPT, other people's time. So you know that. The mastermind provides you with that OPT, but number 1, credit provides you with OPM and investors. So investors and credit will provide you with OPM. And number 2, OPT, other people's time, is your mastermind. So those are your 2 examples. Let me say about OPM and EIDL. At the center, we service about 46 small businesses. We reached out to who were already in our database, already attended our classes, and we told them, you qualify for the stimulus money that they weren't even aware of. And so after qualifying for the stimulus money and explaining to them, I said to the ones who took the EIDL, I said, look, you have 1 year to pay this money back. before you take it, begin with the end in mind. How can you leverage it so that the repayment of that loan within that year time span, you'll have most of that money and be able to pay it off in a faster time? See, you're not going to get, now who gives you money and gives you a year to pay it back? Not any businesses, that I know, not any lending institutions. So what was so phenomenal about the EIDL loan was the fact that you had a year to pay the money back, and they gave you, like Alfred said earlier, small increments. So I kept telling our folks, I said, look, before you take this money, you have to think of a plan or a strategy on how you're going to leverage this. So that if you're still struggling, it means you have to start all over, begin again, so that you could put processes in place in order for you to be able to pay this money, once this year time period is up. So other people's money, other people's time. Let's go to number 3 of leverage, other people's system. At the center, we partner with Amazon. Amazon is a system. As an entrepreneur, you could partner with Amazon. Why? It's a system. Other systems, Turo, Airbnb, Infinite Banking. These are systems. Now, Infinite Banking deals with insurance, but it's a system that's in place to provide you with leverage so that you could be more scalable and more productive and more profitable. So in using these systems, it allows you the opportunity to take your business and catapult it. Number 4, other people's resources. I had a client just this week, and she has an awesome business. And she said, okay, so how do I get started? I said, tell me who you know. I said, tell me your niche market. She said, well, I'm on this board, this board, this board, this board. I said, okay, you don't have a problem. That's where we start. We start with your network or niche market, or those things that those people who you've connected to, who you're passionate and they have the same passionate, but you got to start somewhere, and those people are your way into, let's say, a school system or a college or a corporate entity. But it's relationships, those relationships that are going to help you propel your niche market. So let's go over the leverage opportunities that you have. You don't have to do them all at one time, but you do need to use at least one during your 90-day planning stage. You need to use either other people's money, or 2, other people's time. That's your mastermind group. Or 3, other people's system, meaning you could sell a product on Amazon, or you could sell a service on Teachable and do training. Or you could, Turo is selling your cars, your vehicles that you own and renting them out. Or number 4, OPR, which is other people's resources, meaning that your network of friends, this is not your mastermind group. These are your network of friends outside that group now that you sit on boards with, you go to church with, or, your neighbors or your sorority or fraternity folks. These are people you have relationships with and good relationships with, that you can leverage those resources for your niche market. Next slide. So, Alfred talked in detail about taxes. Here's what I'm going to say. Learn from my mistake. When I first got into business, I was a sole proprietor. And I never forget my tax person told me, your unearned is more than your earned. And I was at a loss for what she was saying because she really didn't explain to me terminology. And so I had a tax bill of about $5,000. This was in the late 80s, and I was pissed. So I went to H&R Block tax school because I'm saying to myself, I shouldn't be paying this much money, and I was a sole proprietor. Well, long story short, I didn't know what I'm giving you today. See, I didn't realize becoming an LLC or S Corp would reduce my taxes. I didn't realize that. So as a sole proprietor, independent contractor, I was following the Schedule C. I thought I was doing something. I had a music studio and I was an investor, and the money from I made from playing music and investing was more than I made teaching at the public schools, within the public school system. And so I just cried. I was like, I was in pain, y'all. Just can't begin to explain it to you. So what happened was I had to do my homework. I had to sit down and literally educate myself on tax strategies. You must, during this 90-day period, sit down with your tax professional, consultant, whoever that is. Here's what I'm going to warn you of. There are people who do taxes and there are people who know taxes. The people who do taxes, they're not going to really educate you on the laws, the changes, those things. You need people who know tax law or who understand it enough to explain it to you, not to do tax evasion, but to reduce your taxes so that you won't overpay. And people like Alfred, who's great. I mean, I have two in my tribe. I mean, they rave about Alfred and the service that he provides and the explanation. And he's a teacher. And you're going to have to sit down with someone now. Don't wait. Because after COVID, what's going to happen is taxes are going to go up. See, after we get through all of this, after we contract, and once we get on the trajectory of growth again within our economy, somebody's got to flip the bill. This money that you're receiving is not free. We are all going to have to pay for it. Now is the time to understand the tax game. In tax game, if you're a sole proprietor, you follow Schedule C. If you're LLC, you follow 1065. If you're S Corp, you follow 1120S. If you're C Corp, you follow 1120. I want to challenge you all to pull out your old tax forms. Begin to look at your deductions and expenses. Begin to read through them. Begin to educate yourself so you'll understand what you can and cannot do and what you miss. If you go back to years prior, you probably missed a lot because you just didn't know. And that's what happened to me. I didn't know. And I and because I didn't know, I said I went to educate myself. So I am trying to engage you today to educate yourself on the tax game because you can leverage. If you go to the next slide, I'm going to show you how you can leverage taxes. Here's how you can leverage. You have what is called tax credits, tax incentives. Well, credit deductions, they're different, but here are some things that you could take advantage of. The healthcare savings account. You could take advantage of the work opportunity tax credit. You could take advantage of charitable donations. You could take advantage of subcontracting when you hire somebody to work for your business, don't forget, you need to give them a W-9. Why? Because by January 31st of the next year, send them a 1099. You get to deduct that. Because why? It came out of the revenue that you were going to make. So these are things that now you can take advantage of. I have another client. He fussed with me the first session. He said, Miss Francis, how is it Amazon doesn't pay any taxes? I said, they take advantage of the tax credit, work opportunity tax credits. I pulled out the form. I said, now, he was like, oh my God, we hire this group of people. They hired veterans, they hired people on TANF, they hire formerly incarcerated. And he was just like, oh my God. I said, yeah. And so in our coaching session, I was explaining to them how they have to go through the process. You just can't all of a sudden try to do an opportunity tax credit and not know process. So after, we talked, he said, oh my God, thank you. I just couldn't understand how Starbucks and how Amazon could get away with hiring so many people and they didn't pay any taxes. Location of your business. If your business is in certain zones, you get tax incentives. I mean, it's so much about taxes that you should know. But during this 90-day period, a part of your planning process, you need to sit down with your tax professional. So I'm just do a recap. 5 stages on the power of leverage. First is the reset. America is resetting. You got to reset. Why? We're in an economic period called contraction. What does contraction mean? Is when businesses get lean. So if businesses are getting lean, you got to get lean. How are they getting lean? They're getting lean through innovation tools like software, social media. They're getting lean by leveraging other people's credit, other people's money, other people's time, other people's systems, and other people's resources. Don't you think when they put a product out there and you like it, they're leveraging the resource or the relationship they have with Facebook to find out what you're interested in? Just like Kyle told you, he said the 10-10-10. If you do it, it's going to help your business too. Also, don't forget you got to leverage a mastermind group. Doesn't have to be a lot of people. I would say 5, at least a minimum of 5 people in your mastermind group. You all should come together once a month. Also remember to have a non-disclosure agreement, which you all have everybody sign, to say what you all talk about stays in the group. It is not going to go outside the group because you all are formulating ideas. You're in the incubation stage, so you guys can help each other grow your businesses. So, and finally, taxes as leverage. So these stages are going to help you propel over the 90 days. Remember, you're in the planning stage in quarter 2. In quarter 3, you may have how you're going to execute that plan. So quarter 2 and quarter 3, you're in the planning stage. But what you're writing in those quarters, you're saying in quarter 3 and quarter 4, I'm either going to execute it or I'm going to implement. Okay? And with execution, you're going to execute maybe purchasing software, maybe hiring the social media consultant. You're going to sit down and have a talk with a lawyer. You're going to sit down and have talk with your tax consultant. Why? because in the execution, you want to implement now the following opportunities. So planning, execution, and implementation are going to be key. I wish you the best of luck. If you need to contact me, it's going to be info@zwhjcoc.org, or go to our Facebook page, the Zan Wesley Holmes Jr. Community Outreach Center. Thank you so much for your time, and you be blessed today.
Miss Frances, once again, you crushed it.
Thank you. I hope so.
Thank you so much
for
your time. Guys, if you've got questions for Miss Frances, put them in the comments right now. In just a minute, we're also going to bring back Alfred and Aaliyah, and the four of us will be available if you guys have any questions about anything we've talked about today, or even if we didn't talk about something that you're struggling with right now. Yeah. The reality is that there's three really smart people on here and me. And so if we can help, we want to absolutely do that. And so, man, so much goodness that was brought to you guys and to me. I learned a ton. I'm sure Aaliyah and Alfred and Miss Frances would all say the same. But let me go ahead and pop everybody back in here. Where did Aaliyah go? I lost her. It's just the three of us right now, guys. Okay. Holding down the court until Aaliyah gets back.
Okay, hopefully she can pop back in. And I just want to say too, while the attendees and the watchers are putting in their questions, guys, everything that was talked about today is so important, and I've seen it with my own eyes as it relates to these loans that the SBA is giving out. See, what Ms. Frances was just saying is so important right now, because these things for many businesses had not been done. And as a result, people were being denied for the loans because you didn't have your ship in order. Like you didn't have your profit and loss statements done. You didn't have an EIN. You didn't have hadn't met with your attorney to figure out the best way to form your business. All kind of reasons. And then these businesses were not approved for the loans, and you have to realize that all of these things need to be in order. And now is the time to do it. Right. So we need your questions, guys. We need you to go ahead and comment, put your questions in the comments. I'm sure someone may have a question while we're getting ready to wrap up here. And
let me just say something. No question is dumb, and don't feel ashamed. But the reason why you're going to need the assistance, inflation and hyperinflation is coming to the shores of America. And we want you to not struggle. We want you to be successful. And you need the professional team to help you move to the next level. What happens is we get stuck in a hustle mode, or we get stuck in just a little bit and we can't grow. And that's just not going to work. I'm telling you. You're going to need to ask the questions, because I already know you have 10 in your head, but you just don't want to put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed, because the question you ask may help somebody else.
And again, we all have our own email addresses and ways to contact us. If you want to do something specific, we've all left our contact information. Here's a question from Audrey Brown. Do you have any upcoming events this summer? Okay, so good question. I think I will answer that. So generally, Audrey, we will have this summit in person, and we do it once a year in Dallas. And then we've also in the past done it in Fort Worth. So we currently are only doing this particular summer, but we do have plans to have another follow-up summit depending on what happens with the pandemic. We had planned on having a pitch program this fall in the Fort Worth and Arlington area. And so we still have that in the works. Kyle, do you want to speak on that a little bit about what we have planned on doing for the pitch deck?
Yeah. We we thought it would be fun just because we're attracting young entrepreneurs that, as Ms. Francis said, right, we need to use other people's money. And because we live in such a money-rich environment in Dallas-Fort Worth, right, we're blessed that money is circulating very quickly through here, about doing like a local Shark Tank, where we pull in some local investors that are looking to provide some seed money or buy into someone's business here locally, and do our little local Shark Tank show. So we're still kind of in the works on that. We kind of slightly put the stop to it just right when Corona hit, but it is something that we're going to be doing. We will be announcing kind of the interview process for that, what you need to do if you want to put your business into have an opportunity to be selected to be a part of that show. And then we're going to do an event. We'll have investors. You'll be there. You'll pitch them live in the room. And it's going to be really cool. I'm super excited about it. And so be informed through this page. This is where we're going to hook you guys up with all the info. And it's going to be coming soon.
Thanks.
Can I announce our event?
Yes.
June 15th through the 19th, we have Juneteenth Economic Forum. It's online. It's called the Hustle and Flow Coaching. And each day we have 2 speakers that we're going to address certain, topics. Like I'll address the economy. We have another speaker who's going to address sales. We have another one. Alfred is on. He's going to address taxes. So each day we try to provide you with information that you need through our Hustle and Flow coaching. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Francis. Yes, so definitely tune into that. Go like the Zan Homes. How do they like the page? Tell them the name of the page one more time, Ms. Francis.
Okay, it's the Zan Wesley Holmes Jr. Community Outreach Center. And then you'll like the page, and then you're going to get all of our information, which we have a ton of. We have a wills clinic coming up now. If you need a will done, Senior Source is one of our partners. If you have a relative over, I think 50 or 55, then the wills clinic. And a lot of lawyers are getting together to do pro bono wills.
Okay, great.
Very cool.
So
guys, we're gonna put I'm gonna put a ticker on the bottom so you can see it. But we want to make sure that action takes place from this virtual summit.
Right.
We've all been to events, 4 of us, and I'm sure the people that are watching, where it's so easy to go, wow, that person was great. But then we go back home and the baby starts crying, the dog pooped on the couch, right? Like that bill came that you forgot about, and we forget that we never went back and implemented what we actually were wowed by. And so here's what we want to do is we want to encourage you guys to think about 3 things that you're going to implement from today. It might be 1 thing from 3 of the 4 of us. It might be 3 things from 1 of us. But write those down, and then we want to hold you accountable. So send us a private message through the Empower DFW page, which is where you're watching this, and tell us, here's the 3 things that I'm going to implement. And one of us, probably me or Alfred or Leah, you might get a message from us going, hey, how's implementation going?
Right.
Because that's the only way we're going to get better.
Right.
We have to hold each other accountable, because like you said, life happens. But if you say, okay, I'm going to take 3 things, that's not that much. That's not that bad. And you got a ton of strategies and a ton of information today, especially with what Ms. Francis talked about. And it's like, now you have to do it. You can't just, write it down and just leave it on the shelf. You have to actually go and do it to make your business successful and take it to the next level, because that's why we're here. And I'm actually somewhat surprised. I don't know if all of the business owners on this page and are watching in or tuned in right now are ultra successful, but I was expecting to see more comments about your business. Hey, if you're an insurance agent, we may need your services, or someone that's on may need to get their insurance taken care of, life insurance, business insurance. If you're a realtor, you're in real estate, someone may be looking for a home. We need to see your business in these comments. You know, these are the action steps that you guys have to do and not be afraid to do, to go out there and say, hey, hustle. I'm going to go out there and market myself. I'm going to market my business, because now's the time to do it, to take it to the next level. So, you know, guys, put your information in the comments so we can know who you are.
And I think sometimes in this virtual environment, it can make us really insecure, because anything I put out there is there permanently.
Yeah.
And so, guys, just be encouraged today that the four of us on the screen right now, we have made mistakes that we could write books about, not just years ago, but yesterday.
Yes.
Right. And so the whole part, like the biggest piece of entrepreneurship, is failing your way forward.
Amen.
So do not wait until you think you have the perfect business plan to get started, because that day will never come. Move forward today with the desire to serve somebody, and watch your business grow. So,
and to that point, Kyle, you're absolutely right. I'll share a quick testimony on exactly what you just said. One of the lessons that I had to learn as a tax professional and owning a tax company is giving my pricing up front.
Right.
Because before, at first, what I would do is I'd have you come in and I'd prepare the taxes, and then I'd be like, okay, here's the tax service, it's done. Here's your refund, or here's what you owe. And now here's my bill. And I had a client to come in and they were like, whoa, I didn't know you charged that much. And I'm like, well, yeah, you know, but this is the service and XYZ. So I had to learn that was a mistake that I made. Like, that was a mistake. So I learned, and I always do this. Before I start working on the return, I analyze it and I say, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. It's going to cost at least this much. Are you okay with this pricing? And if they are, then I move forward. But if they're not, then there's no obligation. They can walk out the door and go somewhere else. And I've asked some people to come back in that same door and say, I want you to do my taxes and I'm ready to pay you. So that's just a lesson that I learned. And that's just me being here.
Well, and that's a great strategy, right? Oh, Leah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to add to that, as we're talking about just the need to surround ourselves with a team. And, you know, it is so important to do. I mean, I can't drive home from a legal perspective why that's so important, whether it be, you know, this firm, any other firm, a tax professional. But I always told entrepreneurs and business owners, just like the big corporations, they have a team of, you know, the chief, the CEO, the chief legal officer or general counsel, the chief financial person. You too need to have that similar team. Obviously, it's going to be maybe, you know, on a scaled back basis. But in order to prevent some of those failures, it's uber important. And you know, I gave the example in the presentation about famous Amos, right? He had a high school degree. And the unfortunate thing is the fact of the matter is none of us on this panel knows everything. We may have a wealth of knowledge about the expertise, our particular expertise area, but we don't know everything. And so for me, if a person comes to me regarding taxes, you know what I say? Hey, I know a good tax guy. Go over to Alfred Record, or, you know, I let them know that's outside of my wheelhouse. And my point for bringing that up is there are many failures as entrepreneurs that we cannot afford to make, right? Because it could legally cost us our business. In the law, there's a saying that ignorance of the law is not an excuse. Like, there is, you know, tax purposes. The taxman is going to come looking for his money, you know, if there's a lawsuit or whatever the case may be. And so I always encourage people to keep in mind the cost that you pay up front is going to be minimal to the cost that you could pay if you wait until a failure happens, or you wait until that lawsuit happens, right? And so, you know, you always want to have some legal eyes, some tax eyes, some finance eyes, and the guidance eyes, you know, the coaching perspective that both Coach Kyle and Ms. Francis provide. So it's worth the cost, and many times the upfront cost is so minimal to the profit and the benefit that it generates, and the longevity that it generates for you. So just please keep that in mind.
Yep, that's right. So, Alfred, bro, we did it. our first ever virtual summit. We made it to the end. Everybody like looked good the whole time. Our slides were there. How did we do this entire thing without any technical error?
Hey, we nailed it. We nailed it. And you know how we nailed it? Because you're awesome. We nailed it with your help and your expertise, man. We did.
That's right.
That is.
We have one more question. Let's say 2 words I've heard the most is value and leverage. So powerful, strong. Thanks for sharing your time. Absolutely, Audrey. We thank you for joining us. We thank you for tuning in today. And hey, like our page. Make sure that you are liking our page, and we will post the next time that we're going to do something. The next time we have something coming up, we do have some plans. So we're going to kind of see what's going to happen with this pandemic and this COVID. But we will continue to push this organization to help you entrepreneurs take your business to the next level. So definitely just like our page and be on the lookout. I think we're about ready to close. I don't think we have any. No other questions. So again, thank you guys so much for joining us today. We hope that you got a lot out of our virtual summit. We look to see you again, hopefully soon in person in the months to come. But we will have our pitch deck coming up. We'll also have another summit coming up as well in person if it's able to happen. But stay tuned in. We do have a new website, empowerdfw.org, empowerdfw.org. Go to our website and subscribe there as well to receive email updates and subscribe and just keep in touch with us. Keep in touch with Coach Kyle, with Miss Francis, with Aaliyah, and with myself. So, hey guys, keep your head up, stay positive. You know, continue to just do what you need to do to create a space to where you're mentally healthy, you're emotionally healthy, because these are some dark times that we're in, but we hope that you've been encouraged. We hope that you've been inspired, and we hope that you've been educated on what you need to do for your business to take it to the next level. God bless you. Take care, guys. We love you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.